to finish off, I think it would be interesting to sort of do some quick fire Q&A questions. Some of these have been submitted by some listeners and people on our social media pages. So if you want to give your just short answer to each. Number one, have you ever been scared when dealing with someone that you're treating?
I wouldn't exactly say scared, because I think I'm on the right side. I'm on the winning side. I mean, certain times things have felt kind of creepy. The only time in my life you hear about these stories of people and the hair on the back of their neck goes up. The only time that ever happened to me was I was speaking to an exorcist about a case, and I was aware of the voice that came out of the person who was possessed. At the time, she was like 1,000 miles away. But I'm speaking to the guy on phone, and that same voice, very disrespectful, mostly cursing out the priest, came in over the phone line. And it was an odd, creepy experience. And I said to the priest, I said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yes, this is a very severe case, so these things can happen." Because they do seem to have some ability to interfere with or even interrupt electronic communication, which is pretty remarkable.
Wow. Next question then. What do you think of the belief that all mental health issues have a spiritual aspect and are spiritual struggles, and that they can be prayed away? Do you give any, or do you believe that, or do you? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about that.
I think prayer is always good. As we talked about before, there are some disorders, let's call it psychic disorders, that have a spiritual component. But no, I don't agree with that. I think it's highly exaggerated. For instance, we know in mental illness there's often certain brain abnormalities. We know that certain conditions are caused, for instance, by medications that can make people anxious or depressed or something. So it's clearly exaggerated to say that all emotional or psychiatric problems are demonic. Mm-hmm. I do not believe that.
Is it possible for the devil himself to attack someone, in your opinion?
The devil himself, meaning Satan, sure. Yeah. And, many exorcists believe that he has announced his presence in certain exorcisms. I think a lot of times, he, like any boss, I think a lot of times he designates his minions to actually possess people. But what's interesting is, I have been to many exorcisms, and what's interesting to me is when the person is delivered, these demons have generally lied who they are. They may say, King Herod, or Nero, or Judas Iscariot or something. Or they may say, Uncle Jimmy. And in the ancient world, they sometimes would even profess to be pagan gods in something, and things like that. So they inveterately lie, which is why they've confused so many people throughout history. But in successful exorcisms, when the commands of the exorcist force them to tell the truth, which they're reluctant about, they will often give a demonic name, like Asmodeus or something like that, which are, demons spoken about in the Bible. That's pretty compelling truth, that only when they're forced to do they reveal who they are, because you will get some commentators who say, well, people can be possessed by dead souls and all that. That have been common beliefs throughout history, but I don't believe that. I believe that pretty much all the time they're demons.
What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions or myths about demonic possession?
Well, first of all, it doesn't easily happen to somebody. It's not going to just happen out of the blue. But I think the biggest myth is, as Hollywood sensationalizes these cases, they often act like it's all having to do with magic prayers, and exorcisms are not magic prayers. The exorcist will say it's not so much the prayers. It's certainly not the exorcist. It's our Lord who delivers people.
Right.
Now, God seems to want people to pray when they have these type of problems, but it's not the prayers per self. It's our Lord deciding when to deliver people.
Let's see. Following on from what you said earlier, when people are, using things like Ouija boards or visiting mediums, do you believe they're contacting deceased people, or do you believe that they're probably contacting a demonic presence that's posing?
No, I believe they are unwittingly, they don't know it, but they're contacting evil spirits, and they're foolish for a number of reasons. First of all, nobody, not even evil spirits, knows the future. And a lot of times people will go to fortune tellers and supposedly they'll learn the future. Sometimes they get bad news, and I've had to correct them to people to their relief. I dealt with a woman doctor once who had been to a fortune teller, and she swore that this fortune teller knew all about her past history, so he must be right when he told her she'll never get married. And I said, evil spirits do not know the future. A year later, of course, she was married, and she felt very relieved when I told her that even angels, and of course, evil spirits we believe are fallen angels. Angels, human beings, and fallen angels do not know the future. Only God knows the future.
Interesting.
So people who turn to these sources, it's a little bit like turning to the mafia. You turn to these evil creatures. Not only are they going to lie to you and try to fool you by pretending they are what they are not, like a dead soul or something, but number two, it's a foolish bargain, because once they feel you've turned to them, they feel they own you. Like somebody who tries to get out of the mafia or something. It's very, once they've done you a favor, and that's how they see what they do. Once they've done you a favor, like revealing something, it's very hard to get rid of them.